Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a pleasant morning I bid to all of you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome and appreciate everyone in this online room for spending your time in witnessing this forum, which entitled Debunking Myths and Misconceptions about PR. We would like to extend our warm welcome to our guest of honor, Yang dihormati, Mr. Nazirul Ikram bin Sirozi, a social media marketing manager at Creative Vibes. Yang berusaha, Dr. Siti Zanariah binti Haji Yusof, the advisor of IPRMSA Uniza Chapter. Yang berusaha, Ms. Nur Nabila binti Azman, the president of IPRMSA Uniza Chapter. I would like to take a moment to recognize and thank all the audience for attending this talk. My name is Nur Najwa binti Azihan, and it is my pleasure to be your MC for today. Ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed, may I invite everyone to invoke the Almighty God for His blessings, and may peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With that, I would like to call upon Mr. Amma for the Dua recitation. Please welcome.
Those non-Muslims are welcome to pray according to your belief. Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وعظمه وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين وعافية في الجسد وزيادة في العلم وبركة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت. اللهم هون علينا في سكرة الموت والنجاة من النار وأقوى عند الكتاب. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman Rahim, you are the one who creates the wonders of the moon and the sun, the skies and the seas, the earth that cycles, also the wonders and secrets in heaven. You are the most merciful and gracious one. Grant us your forgiveness and love. Bless us, our family, our friends, our relatives, all the people around the world, and help us so that we can walk on your path. Treasure us with your radar, so we will become blissful and successful people eternally. Ya Allah, amid this current pandemic, keep us away from COVID-19. We seek refuge in you from this evil disease. Bless us all with peace, health, and happiness. With that, bless our program today, so our guided effort will gain your rahmah the moment it starts to its last second. Please put nothing in this program but all goodness and blessings. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. آمين يا رب العالمين.
Thank you, Mr. Amma, for the beautiful prayers. May our event be blessed and run accordingly. Now, we're going to show you a montage video of IPRMSA Uniza chapter. Please enjoy. have a little announcement to make. For the audience, you may fill in the Google form in the chat box to register for this program. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, this program is held by IPRMSA UNISA chapter to give exposure and ideas to students concerning the working world of public relations. This program aimed to give value and experience by the communication industry's practitioner to help provide and prepare the advantages to the students when venturing into the world of PR. Allow me to spend some time to introduce our respective speaker for today's session. For this forum, we have Mr. Nazirul Ikram bin Sirozi. Mr. Nazirul is a social media marketing manager at Creative Vibes, and he is originally from Kedah. For further information about Mr. Nazirul, he graduated his degree in Bachelor of English and Communication from UNISA in the year of 2016, and he is one of our successful UNISA's alumni. Without further ado, I would like to invite our moderator for today's session, Ms. Fatin Maisarah binti Sadruddin, to embark today's forum. Please welcome.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Najwa, our MC for today. All right, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a pleasant morning to all of our participants today. So I am Fatima Sarviti Sadruddin, your moderator, and with us today we have our great panel today, Mr. Nazirul Ikram, which will debunk the myths and misperception of PR in today's session. So how are you, Mr. Nazirul?
Hello, hi, I'm good here.
May I know where are you joining us? Is it from your home or your
Yes,
office?
exactly. I'm joining this PR talk right away from my home.
Or in Kedah, is it? Or
No, at the moment, I'm currently residing in Putrajaya.
oh, I see. All right. Hopefully everything goes well there. Okay. Okay, so before I go much further, let me just explain a bit about what is actually public relation is to our audience, so you guys will have a better idea on what we will be discussing about. Okay, so according to Public Relations Society of America, they define public relations is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. At its core, public relations is about influencing, engaging, and building a relationship with key stakeholders across numerous platforms in order to shape and frame the public perception of an organization. Besides, as a public relations practitioner, they will research, conduct, and evaluate on a continuing basis programs of action and communications to achieve the informed public understanding necessary to the success of an organization's aims. Okay, so lastly, public relations actually involve in various disciplines. So, for example, like corporate communications, crisis communications, speech writing, brand journalism, social media. Like our panels today, he involved in social media field of PR, and then we have reputation management and then content creations, events, and a lot more if I could list. But without wasting any time, let's just invite our guest panel today, Mr. Nazirul, to answer several questions related to our event today. So I will ask the first question directly to our panel. I think it's like a warm-up question for you. Okay, so like the first question is, most people will have the perception that PR is in line with the marketing or advertising field. So do you think this statement is true? Is there any difference between PR or marketing or advertising field? What is your comment on that, Mr. Nazirul?
All right. Thank you, Miss Moderator, for the question just now. Before I answer your question, I would like to really express my gratitude for inviting me to be in this PR talk. And actually, I would like to make an announcement. The fact that I'm so happy to be in this PR talk, I would like to give out one set of Bluetooth earphones, Bluetooth earphone to one lucky participant today. So at the end of this session, I would like to ask the committee members to pick or to select one lucky participants, and then I will order and post it to that lucky participant. So yeah, please be actively participate in this session. All right. To answer your question just now, Miss Moderator, for someone who has a very deep understanding on what public relation is, he or she must know the fact that PR is all about persuading our internal or external audiences using unpaid and earned methods. We don't buy, we don't pay. In contrast, in digital or in marketing or advertising world, if we want something, we need to pay for it. Only then we get it. However, in PR world, we don't do that. We get what we want through a great understanding and also mutual trust with the other parties. I give you one example. We as PR practitioners don't simply go and ask any journalist out there to write our stories. Instead, we pitch our stories to them and we collaborate with them when they deem our pitches are newsworthy. So based on this particular example, you can see that we as PR practitioners get our stories to be covered not by paying them, but we earn it not freely. As I mentioned just now, we earn them by great understanding and also mutual trust with the other parties. So in short, to answer your question whether the statement of PR is actually in line with advertising and marketing, the statement is kind of false because PR doesn't revolve around advertising or marketing. We don't spend any amount of money. We earn it, but not freely, as I mentioned just now, through great understanding and also mutual trust with the other parties. So back to you, Miss Moderator.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Nazirul, for answering the first question. So I hope everyone would have a great idea. Like PR is not actually the same field as marketing and advertising. Okay. Because as has been mentioned by Ms. Nazirul, you guys need to know that the main job scope of PR is actually to create the mutual trust between the organizations and their publics, especially between the internal and external stakeholders. So, Mr. Azrul, is it like corporate advertisement is also a part of what PR do to create the mutual understanding between, but it's not falls under marketing or advertising, is it?
Yes, exactly. We PR, I know your concern is that either we PR people do works for marketing or advertisement. You have to know the gap between this because we don't work silo. We work with the PR, we work with the advertising and marketing team because we advise them what kind of messages that we should push out throughout the platforms out there to develop the trust, to develop good company's reputation. How we can work together with the marketing and advertising team, but we don't exactly do as what they do.
I see. Okay, like before this, I do have an idea. Like, okay, when I venture in PR, I will do the marketing and advertising job, but it's not true. Okay, it's just a misperceptions on PR field. All
Exactly.
right.
Even if you join any marketing or advertising company, they do have their own PR team.
Oh, okay, great. I just know about it now. I think like it's just focused on marketing or advertising. So thank you so much, Mr. Nazirul, for answering the first question. Okay, let's move on to the second question now. Okay, so this question, I think it is kind of like a hot questions for PR practitioner people because I think most of the people would judge them as that kind of person. So, Mr. Nazrul, for people who are not very familiar with PR field, they might find PR job scope is just to handle crises in an organization. Whenever the organization has any problems, then when they did that, they sometimes do not deliver the correct facts to the stakeholders and known as the fact twister. So, what is your opinion when there is an issue of trust from the stakeholders to the PR team when managing a crisis? If I could give an example, like in Malaysia, we have the biggest crisis in Malaysia Airlines, MH370. So it requires a lot of, when the PR team are managing the crisis, it requires a lot of trust uh, to gain the trust from the stakeholder to trust what are the information that they are relaying to. So what is your opinion on that when there is issue of trust between stakeholders and the PR team?
All right, thank you so much, Miss Moderator. To answer your question, first of all, you need to know that in public relations, we do handle crises through communication. And to answer this question, you also need to know exactly, you need to identify who is your stakeholders. It could be your buyers, it could be your passengers, it could be your investors, it could be your employees, it could be your management teams. Stakeholders is very like involving this group of people. So you need to identify who is your stakeholders when you talk about crisis communication. All right, now in today's world, most businesses, trust me, most businesses will face a crisis at one time or another. It could be from a string of bad reviews that people post on social media platforms to a serious executive scandal. Dengan skandal je semua orang suka. But anyway, when we talk about crisis communication, a negative incident that happened to any companies can actually have a serious impact to companies' reputation. Here, PR practitioners play a vital role in managing this crisis through communication. Why? Because customers, clients, passengers only want to engage, only want to interact with businesses that they trust. When your company caught in a crisis storm, it put that trust into jeopardy. So it is very vital while at first the issue may seem simple or small, a PR practitioners is when if they're not handling it in a proper way, it will grow into a major catastrophe. So basically, this is where the term practitioner, because people will start to talk about the PR practitioners in this particular company is not giving an honest information. They have been keeping the information from the public. So what most important here in this crisis communication, in this managing this crisis, a PR practitioner should be able or to have the knowledge to develop and implement crisis communication plan. Now, crisis communication plan refers to a plan where we have a very structured protocols that enable businesses to effectively communicate during a crisis. I give you one example. If you still remember the LRT accident that took place the last May, do you guys still remember the two LRT crashes underground KLCC? If you guys still remember, during the press conference, the CEO of that particular company, I don't want to mention the company's name, that particular CEO was having jokes, was laughing all the time during the press conference. I mean, the press conference of an accident that resulted serious injuries. Do you think it's a good practice? In PR world, when there is a crisis, we should be able to follow, to implement whatever that we have planned in our crisis communication plan. So in this particular example that I just mentioned with you to you, I I personally think that the PR practitioners in that particular company should have handled this crisis in a better way. For example, they should have find the right spokesperson to be involved during the press conference. They should have organized the information in a strategic manner so that the public will know what have happened, what is the next step, what kind of help that the injured people will receive, things like this. So to answer your question just now, the fact twister that usually referred to PR people, I mean, in PR world, we don't twist the fact, but we only speak the truth. Public relation is the act of like advancing or at least maintaining the positive point of a view of that particular company, even if it is during the time of crisis. PR practitioners should always speak the truth. They cannot, and it is not advisable to twist the fact. So back to our Miss Moderator back.
All right. Wow. It's an eye-opening to see how Ms. Nazar relate with the current situation that used to happen in Malaysia. Yeah, I think the press conference was like the worst press conference that I have ever seen in Malaysia. Like, why? Okay, okay, it's okay. I just don't want to go much further on the attitude of the spokesperson. But yes, PR practitioner, I agree with Mr. Zul, when as a PR practitioner, they should choose the right spokesperson whenever a crisis hit the organization, because if you choose the wrong spokesperson, I believe it will just bring the image of the organization. They will look much more bad, especially the crisis is bad and then you choose the wrong spokesperson and then delivering like in a funny way and then in unethical way, I could say. So it will just bring the organization image much down, and the reputation will just yeah, I could say like gone wrong together. Okay, so I think like I think it's important too for the PR practitioner to learn about how to be ethical, right? Whenever it's not only in crisis communication but in other area too. Is it?
Yeah, exactly. Because if you notice during the press conference, the CEO was not like be prepared with the information. So I was curious whether either the PR team of that particular company um, provide enough information to the CEO. So if we as PR practitioners doesn't come up with a good and organized information, this is where the public gonna say that the company is a fact twister. So it's very crucial if you are PR practitioners. It's very crucial for you to organize your information. Basically, you are the information gatekeeper.
Yes, true. Definitely. I agree with you, Miss Nazrul. Right. We, the PR practitioner, are the gatekeeper of the organization. So if you give the false informations, then the people will look us in a bad way. Okay. So thank you, Miss Nazrul, for the second question. Okay, let's move on to the third question. Okay. So as Mr. Nazrul is involved in social media, as social media manager, right? Social media marketing manager. Okay. So I want to ask, what would be the best initiative that we can implement to build up the company's reputation and image? Okay, as we know nowadays we are impacted with COVID-19 pandemic, right? So most people would just focus on the online platforms, digital media. So is it important for us still use the traditional media, or we can just abandon it like newspaper, magazine, and just focus on digital media like social media and website, etc. Uh, to enhance the company's reputations and image? What is your comment on that?
All right, thank you, our Miss the moderator. Before I answer your question, there is actually one question in the message box. Which is better, to have a spokesperson or to use the director? For your information, finding a right spokesperson during crisis is very important. It's very vital. It could be your director, or it could be anyone that you think is a perfect to be the face of your company. I give you one example. For Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia, if you notice throughout this pandemic, the spokesperson for this kementerian is not the menteri itself, but the ketua pengarah of kesihatan. So it can be like that. You can choose your director, or you can choose another person to be your spokesperson for that particular company. As long as you think he or she is able to manage the crisis in terms of through communication, so that the crisis would not lagi jauh menderita dari segi krisis tu. Coming back to your question just now, which platform is the best for PR practitioners nowadays to build up one company's reputation? Traditional media versus digital media. Now, who is the king now? Which is the best platform for PR practitioners to develop or build up company's reputation? Well, you have to know that traditional media allow PR practitioners to target broad audience, while digital media allow PR practitioners to target a narrowed target audience. To answer this question, there's no exact answer. I mean, like, A company and company's audience or company stakeholders are both unique. As a PR practitioners, you should be able to identify this. You should be able to analyze it in which platform that you want to use to build up your company's reputation. There's no harm, and it is entirely possible for any PR practitioners to make use both of them. I give you one example. I mean, if your company is selling digital products, like for example, ebooks, video editing template, or even sound design, you most probably already know the fact that your audience, your stakeholders, most of the time will be on digital platforms. So it is advisable for you to make use of these digital platforms rather than traditional media. However, as I mentioned just now, it is completely no harm and entirely possible for any PR practitioners to make use both of them. Kalau you boleh guna kedua-duanya, why you nak guna satu sahaja? Am I right?
So it seems like traditional media is still relevant right now, even though like but the most important PR practitioners must identify which stakeholders use more between the media, which is they more influence. Like if digital media, so digital media. But if can make use both of it, it is much better. But before that, I noticed we have Mr. Aidit here from Plus Organization. Is it? So
Hi.
yeah. So I would like to say hello, Mr. Aidit. For it's it's interesting to have you here. So thank you very much for joining us here. Okay. So okay, let's just move on. Oh, he's driving. Wow. Thank you
Hi,
so
hi,
much,
hi.
Mr.
So sorry,
Aidit.
wait. Let me just be safe. Apa? So Nazirul, thank you. I heard I've been listening while I'm actually on leave, but I'm still working at the same time. But anyway, as you're right lah, the media never stops, right?
Yes.
And if you can use all platforms, why not? And you're right. I think now while there's proliferation in terms of media and it's segmentized, PR practitioners, one thing need to understand if you are in-house or even though you are consultancy, I think we need to do a media matrix. I think it's time because media matrix in the sense that we need to put the media stakeholders in categories of primary stakeholders, secondary, and tertiary, right? Because what I've noticed also from Plus, while my social media team selalu kata, hey boss, janganlah cepat meloncat, when something comes out in the social media. But I say, guys, I tak meloncat. Yang meloncat pas kat I, board directors.
Betul.
Correct? So, now what we're doing is, when we do up the media punya matrix, stakeholder matrix, katakan, I say, we have to identify. Yang penting bagi kita, as you said, Nazirul, kalau the traditional mainstream media is still powerful for mass, who are the top 5 or top 10? Betul tak?
Betul?
What is the secondary layer, right? And then in terms of online, as you said, it's more targeted. Mana yang meaningful to us, okay? Because sometimes we see like Focus Malaysia, they sometimes come up with something very sensational, macam nak tembak Plus kan. Tapi kita tengok, alamak, traction pun tak ada. So do we really need to react? So we also need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, reaction and responding is two different things.
Yes.
Right? So to respond, you need time, you need research. You need to understand the layer of line that the media puts out, right? And then once you have that matrix, then you match that media stakeholder, match it to your key stakeholders. So key stakeholders, tak semungkinnya just board of directors or your senior management, your MD, your chief commercial officer, but also in terms of your government regulators. Kalau LLM, ketua pengarah tu, Datuk Suhaimi tu, dia suka baca apa? Sila harian. Katakanlah contoh. So we know, if we then match them, right, the matrix is matched, the power influence of each of that we have plotted out, then we know how to curate and package kita punya massive product. So kata kita nak reaction from LLM dengan Kementerian Kerja Raya. You know, okay, these are the key primary media yang diorang selalu pantau, selalu tengok. Then how? What would be the package product of the press release a statement goes out to? Secondly, I think as young PR practitioner, jangan lupa nak establish working or cordial relationship. Kenalilah tiap-tiap media walaupun dia yang sekecil-kecilnya the reporter. They will grow up with you. They will become the chief editor when you become the director of comms.
Exactly.
Right? Never forget it. So stakeholder mapping is very, very important where they are now. Right? So yang kerajaan, so as you go into any organization, you identify not only the media stakeholders, government stakeholders and the non-government stakeholders that is important for your company punya growth, your company punya sustainability, and most importantly, the continuity. That means revenue, right? Who makes the most decision? For plus, concessionary agreement dipaksikan kepada lembaga lebuh raya. Kalau lembaga lebuh raya, walaupun kita have the best projection of or projects that kita nak push for the highway, but at the end of the day, if we don't have the stakeholder engagement or relationship dengan lembaga lebuh raya, kalau dia nak putuskan the concessionary agreement
Macam tu je.
like that, you know. So relationship is one, but before you go to relationship, you have to map out what relationship are important and why, and then who, and then from who you need to go. Kenal kan Datuk Suhaimi KP tu, dia suka of pergi MTB tiap-tiap weekend. Dia suka makanan ni, isteri dia, anak dia apa. Right? At the end of the day, it goes down. PR is not public relations. It's also personal relationship.
Exactly.
You kenal ke dia orang? Dia dah jadi kawan ke? Right? You keep a professional stance, but everybody is human being. Right? Everybody, kita ada deepest fear, deepest dream, deepest wish. How do you tap on that? What are the hot buttons? Then this one will give the success. Sorry, Nazir, I just not sharing.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a good sharing for you.
So I'm going to stop here. I hope everybody benefits from that. Don't worry, I'm going to continue to drive. Please carry on. The sharing is wonderful. Actually, Nazir, I nak invite you to also share with some of my young ones in class. Boleh tak?
InsyaAllah, boleh.
Okay, alright. Continue. Thank you.
Alright, thank you, Mr. Said Aidid. Is what apa yang Mr. Said Aidid mentioned just now or share with us is also true when it comes to media platforms. You tak boleh rigid to one particular media platforms. You have to know your stakeholders, apa kesukaan dia, apa kepentingan, what message you want to throw out to the public. I give you one example from my personal experience. I was handling this one housing agency under Ministry of Housing and Local Government. If you are familiar with the name of Prima, you know Prima has a lot of projects yang sakit, and when you talk about housing it related to house buyers. So bila banyak projek sakit, house buyers obviously lah akan marah kenapa rumah lambat, bank loan berjalan and things like that. And they have been spamming the ministry's social media platforms like for months. They already have their own persatuan to attack the ministry's social media platform. So if you see here, I use the word attack and at the same time I use the word spamming. So macam Mr. Said Aidid mentioned just now, you have to know where you want when you want to respond or when you want to react. And also as one of the stakeholders mapping yang macam Mr. Said Aidid mentioned just now, the KSU of this particular kementerian come up with an idea of not layan this spamming issue dekat kementerian punya social media platforms. Rather layan the spamming situation dekat social media platform. What I suggest to this particular agency is that you jangan layan on the social media platform, but you invite them to libat urus with them. You come up with bertemu dengan dia orang, explain with them. It much better. Macam Tuan Said Aidid mentioned just now, it's all about personal relationship. You want to build that personal relationship sehingga kepada home buyers itu. Kalau you menjawab saja dekat social media, since the home buyers attack dekat social media, and you come out, you release press release ke, you buat keluar satu notice ke apa, it will never habis dekat situ saja. Because as I mentioned just now, this particular home buyers, diorang ada satu persatuan untuk attack the ministry punya social media platform. So instead of melayan diorang dalam social media platform, instead of melayan diorang melalui press release, instead melayan diorang melalui berita keluar punya CEO punya statement and everything, I suggest to them, buat satu event, bertemu dengan home buyers ni, buatlah sejam, 2 jam, 3 jam, explain to them apa yang terjadi, what is their collection plan, dan apa yang they can give to the home buyers ni, supaya the personal relationship tu dekat level tu dah terbina. So daripada situlah kita as PR practitioners, we develop or build up company's reputation, even though in the times of crisis. Aku say, okay, back to our Miss Moderator.
Wow. Okay. I love to hear what Mr. Aidit have comments, and back to Mr. Nazirul when they add. What I found in this when I'm asking this question to Mr. Nazirul. So I believe that the most important way when you are dealing with both platforms of media, either traditional or social media, it is important to know your stakeholders, and then keep building up the personal relationship. So PR is just not you involved with media and just
Nope.
giving out the press release and like the formal way is not. Okay, so it's more than that. Okay.
I give you one example, simple example. For example, Hari Raya. I give you kad Hari Raya, but I don't have personal relationship with you. Are you going to entertain my kad Raya? No, right?
No.
You macam, siapa ni bagi kad Raya? Walaupun dalam kad Raya tu, I tulis wish yang sangat, happy selamat Hari Raya, bla bla. Even if I masukkan duit dalam tu pun, you mesti akan, you punya respon macam, siapa ni? If you don't have that personal touch, in PR, you takkan, you will not go anywhere.
Yes, definitely. I think like I could relate with like when PR do corporate advertising like Petronas doing video Hari Raya. Is it relatable to build up the personal relationship with the stakeholders too, right?
Yes.
Alright.
I just one point, girls and boys.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Aidit.
Remember that saying that tak kenal maka tak cinta.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's the basis.
So kalau you pergi bawa you punya stakeholder macam Tuan Mr. Syed Haidit mention just now, salah satu tugas as a PR practitioners, we escort or we assist our CEO ataupun mana-mana stakeholders macam I mentioned early. Kalau you have to identify who is your stakeholders. It could be your directors, it could be your management team, it could be your buyers, it could be your passengers, it could be your investor. Macam tu as saya did mention just now, lembaga lebuh raya, lembaga satu lagi tu. So if you know this particular stakeholders, if you assist them to media house, kalau you tak kenal siapa-siapa dekat media house ni for example TV3 lah, you nak bawa dia keluar appear dalam TV show, even though for that particular 5 minutes of interview, if you don't have any connection with the media personal dekat situ, you tak ada personal touch tau. So dia macam you bekerja macam robot lah. Hi, I'm Nazirul. I'm from this. I come with my director for the TV interview, blah blah blah. Then they see, habis 5 minutes, you balik. You tak ada langsung personal touch kat situ. So let's say in future, if you have problems or during that 5 minutes, kalau your CEO directors come up with false ataupun misleading statement, it's gonna be hard for you to like pick up your phone. Hey, boleh tak you perbetul this statement ataupun boleh tak you censor this yang keluarkan? It's gonna be hard for you.
Yeah, okay. I think the answers that provided by Mr. Nazir relate to our number 4th question, which is when PR field need to have a good connection with the media outlets, which will enhance the company's reputation. So it's true to like PR practitioner need to have a huge press mailing list and then know the journalist contacts to bring the benefits to the organization.
Alright, when you mention huge mailing list and journalist contact, it actually goes beyond that, because we PR practitioners don't simply save email addresses, we don't simply save journalist phone number dalam phone kita. No, it goes beyond that. It is what we call media relations. We build up good rapport with them. So dalam in terms of crisis ke apa, senang, we can just pick up our phone and call them, hey, boleh tak I nak minta tolong you cover our story macam ni, ataupun hey, our CEO come up with different or false figures, I nak perbetulkan sikit. You see, kalau in terms of this, kalau you don't have good connection with media, let's say the news is out, and then your stakeholders baca. Stakeholders macam I mentioned just now could be your investor, could be your management team, could be public, could be buyers. Bila dia baca that kind of news yang salah, misleading, false figures, benda ni akan create crisis, benda ni akan create a major catastrophe. So instead of you as sebagai PR practitioner, you kena jaga image company you, am I right? So selalunya in this time before dia jadi crisis, by having good media relation, you boleh orang kata halang krisis tu daripada berlaku. You just for example, I give you one personal experience. Usually during the press conference, whatever the CEO cakap dekat masa during press conference tu, we PR practitioners, we don't only handle press conference. Handle press conference tu melibatkan a lot of works behind the scene. Daripada pembangunan FAQ, daripada nak sahkan information yang kita nak bagi dekat director kita, dekat CEO kita, dan juga sehingga nak jemput media mana yang nak datang cover kita punya press conference, dari segi bentuk apa dia orang nak keluarkan story kita. This behind the scene people don't see. People only think that PR is all about glams, because you see PR people look smart, look good, look beautiful, right? Tapi behind this scene people tak nampak kerja-kerja yang belakang ni. Kita yang bantu company untuk jaga company punya reputation and image. So bila berlaku sesuatu our CEO cakap sesuatu yang salah, dalam particular time tu lah kita ada masa, bila kita ada good relationship with the medias, we can just hang out with them. Hey, dah habis je press conference, hello guys, kita ada sediakan makan minum, jom kita lepak-lepak sambil you guys come up with the story, ketut story lah. Kita dalam istilah PR kita panggil ketut story. So in the meantime dia orang tengah ketut story tu, kita boleh pantau dia orang tahu. Tengok sama ada story apa yang dia tulis. Is it a negative story or positive story ataupun neutral story. Kita boleh anglekan what kind of narrative we want them to write about us. But again, we as PR practitioners, we never simply ask journalists to write what we want our stories to be out. No, we need to have a great understanding and mutual trust with them. Only then this thing can happen lah.
I'd like to weigh in on that. You're exactly right, Nazirul, because the kesilapan banyak PR, dia nak control the media. You don't control the media, but you control your narrative. That's what you can control, is your narrative. So you have to do a lot of research on what is the key message that management wants to get out, right?
Yeah.
So that is also through understanding what is the agenda of that media personnel. What is that personality or that reporter they like to. I share an example. When I joined Plus in 2019, I joined bulan April, bulan Jun kita kena hentam dengan Age, right? So Jose Barok wrote about the story that Age government nak jual Plus. I don't know whether you all remember that, right?
Yeah.
And it reflected on how badly our finance was managed, right?
Exactly.
So while the punya data semua not entirely accurate, right? It was half of accurate because there are backstories about how the figures came about. So what we did was we sat down with the CFO and understand the scenario. What we didn't go back and fight with the story from the Age, because we also realized sometimes there is somebody behind it as an agenda. We did not fight head on. We decided to take our narrative, which we were in control, and because of the relationship we had with the Star, Jack Dave, business editor, we came up with our series of stories. Explaining how we manage, how the revenue that was collected, what is used for in terms of maintenance and all that. And my last point I wanted to weigh in is, no point having a big database if you don't know how to use it.
Exactly.
And I think what Nazir said is, if you have the relationship, you only need to know the key people. Based on your stakeholder, you can get your content across. Tu je. Right? And in the past, when I was younger, PR companies used to be very fearful and used to be very guarded about their media database. Right? They tak nak bagi client, they tak nak bagi.
Betul.
I'm very easy to share. You know, now other departments in the government, they minta I share the database. To me, database is database. It's just a number, it's just an email. But you will not have the relationship I have.
Yes.
So the learning here, ladies and gentlemen, is do you have the relationship that is valuable to that journalist? That is where your power comes in as a PR practitioner. Okay? Thanks for hearing the old man.
Just to add on what Mr. Said Aidit just shared just now. Satu situasi yang Mr. Said Aidit share dengan kita tadi when the age hentam plus and everything. Kalau you perasan in this particular case, kita as PR practitioners don't simply respond, don't simply react. We choose how we respond, we choose when we want to react. It doesn't mean, you kena tahu dalam dunia PR ni, sometimes reporters, they tend to push us they tend to push PR practitioners to come up with a statement. For example, I give you, like for example, IPRMSA Uniza. The reporters tulis satu story buruk pasal IPRMS Uniza. And then your CEO macam dah baca that story. The CEO refer to the PR team. Hey, you should come up with correcting plans for this particular issue. So you as a PR practitioners, you cannot simply, okay, kita akan contact the age untuk bagi tahu dia, tu boleh tak you turunkan story tu sebab dia tak betul, tak bla 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 bla. And then obviously the age will respond macam, if kalau tak betul, you come out with a statement. We can help you to, you know, jaga you punya company's reputation. You see, this is how the games. You jangan mudah orang panggil apa, melompat bila situasi berlaku. Macam Tuan Syed Aidit buat dekat pada ni plus, instead of bagi semua information, respond dekat DH, dia tak guna DH, dia guna the star. So this is one of the example case yang you boleh belajar daripada sini. As to be a PR practitioners, you kena tahu juga taktik-taktik macam mana you nak respond.
Wow, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Nazirul. So I think the main point is it's not important to have like a huge mailing journalist contacts or everything, but if you still have it but you do not know how to utilize it, build the relationship, is no point. Okay, everyone. So if you guys want to be a PR practitioner, please take note of this. Okay. All right. So
Simple analogy.
Okay, yes.
Kalau you buat kenduri, you yes.
Sorry. One last thing. When you have the database, make sure that email name or address, you know whether it's a guy or girl. I have a lot of PR friends kata dia guy tapi dia miss. You know? So they see lah. So of course as a recipient, kalau dia panggil, you know, I mean, and it's too bulat is his name is Peter Yap, but they call him dear Miss Peter Yap. Right? So
Right.
these are really small things, people, but the small things matter most. So
Yes.
be very careful. Yeah.
Plus you are the PR people. Kalau you salah greet orang, you rasa macam mana?
Malu.
Okay, coming back to the simple analogy, I nak bagi tahu you when you said that if you have big database, but then you don't know how to utilize it. For example, personal relationship with them, tak ada guna juga you jemput dia orang kan.
Betul.
So kalau you buat press conference ke, you buat apa-apalah within your company, you jemput reporters, journalists to come, but you don't blend in with them, you tak mingle with them. You rasa story nak keluar tu mengikut narrative yang you tulis ke? Tak. You rasa reporters ni akan macam in favor with your company ke? Tak. Ini susah. So PR is all, that's why we call relations. It's relationships.
So I think it is very important like for PR practitioner to have like a really good relations with the media. I tak kisahlah like newspaper outlets ke, TV punya media ke, but really need to have a good media relation. So it will help to enhance your company's reputation and image. Alright. So we come to the fifth question is, okay, so in a company, obviously we have like human resources team, right, to handle the workers' welfare. So if any issues that circling in the organization, the human resource would solve it. But do you think as a PR practitioner, they can just not bother about the internal issues that happening around the organization and just focus on the external issues, like communication plans is based on for the external stakeholders. So because there are statement says that when you are focused on external communications as external stakeholders, it would give more impact to your company's image. So what
No,
is your, yeah, okay,
to
oh,
answer your
directly
question,
no.
to answer your
Okay.
question is definitely no. I mean, this is an internet issue that we PR people always face it in any organization, in any companies, in any businesses. I mean, like HR team says that they have the power for the internal communication, while the PR team also say the same because it's communication. We control communication. Doesn't matter whether it is internal or external, right? So when this happen, when they work in silo, when they don't work together, what happen is that you only will be delivering mixed messages and also orang kata macam message yang tak sejajar. So it will affect internally and also externally. I give you example. If you have one company, you manage this one company. HR team manage employees and PR team manage different stakeholders, because when it comes to stakeholders mapping, you ada 4 categories of stakeholders tau. Stakeholders yang memberi tekanan dan memberi tekanan at the same time memberi faedah. Stakeholders yang tak memberi tekanan tetapi memberi faedah. Stakeholders yang tak memberi tekanan dan tak memberi faedah, dan stakeholders yang memberi tekanan tetapi tidak memberi faedah. So you have to know how to identify these particular stakeholders. So untuk apa yang I nak suggest kat sini adalah HR team and PR team should be able to work together so that we can come up with a better strategic alignment in terms of messaging. I give you one example. Dalam setiap tahun ataupun every new year, CEO ataupun director kena keluarkan satu prakata untuk the employees. Let's say if the HR teams yang handle benda ni, obviously the speech, narrative, whatever yang you nak company tu sampaikan dekat internally, sometimes dia tak sampai dekat employees tu. Bila tak sampai dekat employees tu, this will lead to, employees tak faham apa vision, apa mission yang company nak sampai. Di sinilah PR team come into the picture. Dia akan bantu HR dari segi messaging. Macam mana you nak craft your message. Perkataan apa yang you nak guna. Dia boleh jadi sesimpel-simple perkara. Let's say kalau you nak sampaikan benda positif tapi you guna perkataan negatif. Macam tidak, bukan. It's a negative connotation tapi you nak sampaikan benda yang positif. Things like this can lead to, orang your own employees tak faham apa yang vision, mission company tu nak. So bila benda ni berlaku, dia akan bagi it will give bad impact to the companies lah. So what I want to suggest, HR people out there, PR people out there, you should not work in silo. You should work together.
I agree, Nazir, and I'll give you a working live example of Plus, right? While we are called the Strategic Stakeholder Engagement Department, we work very closely with HR IC, right? IC stands for Internal Communication and Employee Engagement. Because it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen, every single employee is a brand ambassador of the company. Kalau external messaging push tapi kat dalam warga kerja dia tak rasa the message, dia kata apa benda ni? Right? And then they just say cakap tak super bikinnya management. So this will cause a lot of tension. This will cause a lot of people to be demotivated. This will put management in a terrible state of being a liar. So a company, in terms of top level management, we talk about authentic leadership. Authentic leadership is how kita selaraskan dan selarikan kita punya message that it has to hit home internally first before we push it out.
Exactly.
That you don't want to go out there and tell everybody, hey, my daughter has 5 A's for medicine. Then my daughter said, I didn't know that. Right? You got it from the cikgu, right? So where is the trust level? If we are colleagues and we are employees, shouldn't we get the recipient of the message first?
Exactly.
Because we should the closest that you trust, right? If you go out and say a message that the internal buy-in has not set up, what does it send the message to internally? You are jual minyak lah, right? You just want to look good outside to your external stakeholders. But what about us internal stakeholders? Are we being used? Are we being abused? Then tiba-tiba you make a promise externally to LLM, to all the ministry, and then we have to start to scramble inside to make sure that that message is met. Then it's not fair. So yes, internal communications and external communication has to work hand in glove, and this is our corporate value in plus of enterprise focus. Okay, thanks.
I would like to give another example. If you guys still remember the mass tragedy, the 777 Boeing, those two incidents, if you still remember, internal communication plays vital role during this time. Kalau you perasan, dalam during that particular time, internal communication breakdown, meaning to say tak ada communication berlaku among employees, dan employees tu sendiri yang sebar perkara-perkara yang tak betul to the public. You know, when employees tu sendiri macam, oh rupanya dalam mas ni kita tak tahu yang ada ni. Benda tu dah sampai level tu. So internal communication, external communication, both important, and HR and PR team should be able to work together. Particularly kalau contoh mas juga selalu sangat ada masalah buang pekerja. So bila HR team tak pandai manage orang yang kena buang kerja, tak pandai manage macam mana nak inform them in terms of messaging and everything, orang ni bila dia kena buang kerja, dia keluar, dia akan bercakap, they will talk badly. And bila dia cakap badly about this company, the reputation will be terganggu lah. So PR team yang nak kena cuci. So instead of this thing happen, benda ni boleh dikawal masa awal-awal lagi if HR people and PR people work together.
Yes, and one other note to put, your staff is also a media. Everybody has a social media platform. So jaga-jaga, hati-hati. If they tak puas hati, they will tembak. And the reputation tu lagi buruk kalau it comes from inside.
Exactly.
I think I have another example when like GNT crisis, like I think like during the lockdown, when the GNT workers like throwing out the parcels and then make damage to the customer's parcel, and then it brings a bad image to JNT, right? But at that time, I think JNT did not really respond directly to the issues, and that's why I think it's really important as a PR practitioner, like have been mentioned by Mr. Aidil and Mr. Nazirul, like it is very important to collab together with HR team. So you guys, we can, as a PR practitioner, can ensure that the welfare of the internal communication and external communication is taken care. So it can take care of the company's reputation. So I hope everyone could get more idea on how PR field work in terms of internal and external communications. All right, so we are already at 11 o'clock right now. So let's just move on to the last question. Okay, so these simple questions to Mr. Nazirul. Okay, we know Mr. Nazirul is our alumni, and then the most amazing speakers today, and they have evolved a lot in PR field. So what is your advice and tips for all our participants and all the future graduates on what will they expect when entering the PR field?
Alright, to answer your question, actually I have tak adalah banyak sangat experience, more or less 5 experience in both private and government sectors, and I have been doing PR, media relations, strategic communication, social media management. So based on this experience, all I can say is that PR is certainly not a 9-to-5 job. For future graduates who want to enter the PR world, you should know the fact that PR is not a 9-to-5 job. Because why? Again, you work with your stakeholders. Macam I cakap tadi, stakeholders you banyak, directors, internal, external. So somehow you have to work alongside with their hours and also the expectations. Macam I personally, based on my personal experience, kadang-kadang 2-3 pagi, 5 pagi, 4 pagi, the director, the CEO text, Nazirul, tomorrow before now I want this. So PR practitioners should always ada knowledge tu dekat tangan dia. Why? I give you simple situation. During the press conference, tiba-tiba your CEO stuck, tak boleh cakap, tak tahu. You should always have that information dalam tangan you. Tapi I tahu kita manusia, kadang-kadang kita terlupa juga details, right? So what you can do, macam contoh dalam situation ni, during the press conference, you kan ada head of certain departments. You bring that head of the certain departments to be together in the press conference. It doesn't have to be appeared dalam depan tu, atau dia boleh duduk kat belakang ke ataupun, so that they can supply the information. And to be in PR world is always you should always be proactive. You tak boleh jadi reactive. You should always be proactive. You should anticipate apa yang akan berlaku. Bila you tahu how to anticipate apa yang berlaku, so that you can strategically plan, you can strategically manage untuk apa you nak keluar macam mana, to media platform apa, message apa, siapa. You should always be proactive. You tak boleh jadi ni je, responsive je. I give you example. There is one time when my colleague assist one of our stakeholders untuk pergi TV interviews. So dalam TV interviews tu, the MC tanya soalan-soalan yang provokatif, and the stakeholders tu dah dalam situation yang not comfortable to answer those provoking questions. Tapi this one colleague, I don't want to mention his or her name. This one particular colleague just play along. Dia tunggu sampai TV interview tu habis. Kalau you want to be a PR practitioner, a good PR practitioner during this kind of time, you should do something. Tak semestinya you kena stop the interview ke apa ke. Beforehand pun you boleh dah preempt the MC. If possible, kita this interview kita nak push content apa dulu. So kalau you boleh tanya soalan-soalan macam ni, kalau you tanya soalan provoke pun mungkin you boleh olah cara soalan you to make orang kata dalam positive way ke apa ke. So PR is also about being proactive. Sebab I have been in this PR world, and I dah jumpa ramai PR practitioners yang tak proaktif. So bila you work with PR practitioners yang tak proaktif, susah nanti your team. So for future graduates, if you want to enter this PR world, my advice is to be always proactive. And in skill wise, obviously lah, when it comes to PR relation, you have to have good communication skill and also writing skills, because it's all about communication. Bila communication, you kena bercakap, you kena menulis. So you need to have that, you need to have great skills lah when it comes to writing dan juga bercakap. It doesn't matter if you fluent in Malay or if you fluent in English, because sometimes there is a right spot for you in different company. Kadang-kadang company tu dia target, macam I cakap, if they targeting orang yang cakap bahasa Melayu, then bahasa Melayu would be your forte lah. If they targeting in English, then you should make sure your English is power enough. So that is my advice lah for future candidates, future graduates who want to enter PR world. But I really love to hear also from Mr. Syed Aidid, if he's still here, because he has much more experience than me. Maybe we can also hear ni lah nasihat-nasihat yang berguna daripada orang senior.
Okay, sorry, I'm having my coffee. So what Nazirul brought out is very, very true, right? PR is not a 9-to-5 job, right? So those of you who want a work-life balance, my saying to you is this: if you got work, if you got a job, your life will be balanced. But if you got no job, you're jobless, you got no income, your life will be in disbalance. So that's all I can say. What is very, very important is your passion. Ask yourself now, before you graduate, why are you doing this? Do you really like what you're doing? There are a lot of people who join PR later, suddenly they become dispassionate. They become dispassionate because they just realize it wasn't their cup of tea. They can be good writers, but they did not have the stamina to spend the long hours, right? And I'm not saying that you need to spend the long hours all the time, every time, right? But this is the nature of public relations, because one, issues, crises never tell you
I'm coming in at 10 a.m.
Exactly.
No, right? The media doesn't sleep. Neither do your stakeholders. Neither do my senior management. Well, I mean, they do sleep, lah, right? But they're always ready because crisis is 24/7. So we need to be on our feet. But having a plan, having a crisis plan, having a media plan, right? And knowing who your stakeholders are, that helps you to give more time for yourself to be able to rest, right? At the end of the day, the reason why I have been doing this, because I get the satisfaction of seeing how my brand, my company gets better recognition, gets better acceptance, and the employee feel a sense of pride on the brand. That's my satisfaction. And personally for me, I want to leave a legacy in the industry and especially to my family. So find your why. And I bet you will become the best PR person.
All right. I think thank you so much, Mr. Aidit and Mr. Nazirul. It's such a great advice to all of participants today. And we could have a better idea on what we are going to expect when entering the PR field. I think the most important thing is to have a great passion. Like identify your passion. Is it okay? Are you going to be okay when you want to enter PR field? Because if when you are ready to work in PR field, of course you want to work in a long time, right? Isn't like a short time, short term. So uh firstly you need to have a great passion. So thank you very much for great advice from Mr. Aidit and Mr. Nazirul. So I think that's the end for the sharing session. So let's just move on to the Q&A session. So if any of the participants have any questions, so kindly drop it at the chat box in Google Meet, or if we have from Facebook Live or and YouTube Live, please drop it your question and we just read it to our panel. Okay. Okay, I think there's a question here from Alpha. Ah, okay, from Alpha in Google Meet. Participants from Google Meet. So she asks, will appraisal system help with the miscommunication system between HR and PR? Or is there a different technique to approach the matter?
Come again.
Okay. Will appraisal system help with the miscommunication system between HR and PR, or is there a different technique to approach the matter?
You mind, Nazir, if I just weigh in on that?
Yes.
Appraisal is about performance, right? So what you've said with your team on how you want to perform in your PR department or whatever department, that is a totally different set. It's about performance, right? How well you do, right? If your PR in terms of HR connectivity, then it will go in line with what is the outcome of your employee engagement survey, match to your reputation index survey if you're doing that. So if your reputation index survey comes out that plus is number one, that means the external stakeholders measure us as that. But your employee engagement survey comes out that there are a lot of gaps, then you know something is wrong, right? That means your external push messaging may have been perfect for the outside. Internal, there might be still a lot of people are not comprehending what you're actually trying to say, right? But appraisal, it's totally separate. So, for example, if your appraisal to your staff is, I want to have to make sure that in terms of the media score index for plus is above a median of 4.5 and 5 is the maximum. And what is your stretch? Your stretch is to get 4.8, your base is to get 4.5, the threshold if you hit 4, right? And that will come in the appraisal.
Yeah, right? I agree with Mr. Said.
Yeah.
Sebab tadi I was confused with the question. Appraisal system is different, kan? So yeah, we have different question. Would it be challenging for extroverts to work in PR world? No, it's not gonna be challenging if you have the passion, because it will be naturally come out from yourself.
So whether you're extrovert or introvert, it doesn't really matter, right? Everyone have their strengths, everyone have their opportunities. How you position yourself. You can't have everybody in a PR department extrovert all jumping around, right? You still need some people with some sense like, hey, hang on, this one, before you shoot out, let me check first.
Yes.
Right? So this is where the combination of teamwork comes into play. Okay? I have team members who are very similar like me. It doesn't mean that everybody's on the same type of mode. It may not be the same wavelength, okay? Same type of modus operandi, it doesn't mean it's good for the department or the company. You have to have a mix. You have to have those who are devil advocates. You have to have those who actually look into the details of the devil, right? But you also need to have those who are driven and say, let's push it out. And this is where, how do we dovetail with each other's strength? How do we complement the weaknesses and bring each other up? And that's what teamwork is about, right? Okay?
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Aidit and Mr. Nazirul. I hope our participants from FB Live that have answered your question, and to Alpha also, hope it answers your question. So I think that's all for Q&A session because we are a bit of time. So I would say, okay, so that is the end of this sharing sessions. As the saying goes, to every beginning there is an ending, and now the program has come to its end. But don't worry, guys, there is actually other activities after this. Stay tuned, okay? Don't leave yet this meeting. Okay, so once again, I would love to say thank you very much to everyone in this room for gracing our program with your presence. We truly appreciate it so much. And a special thanks to Mr. Nazirul for providing us a lot of insights for today's events, and to Mr. Aidit too. Okay, and to all of the participants, we hope all of you have gained as much input as possible and inspired to get involved in PR field. All right, that's all from me. I will give back to our MC today, to Miss Najwa, for the next activity. So that's all from me. Stay safe and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nazirul, Ms. Fatin, and Tuan Syed Idit for the eye-opening discussion just now. I hope that the vast knowledge that has been shared just now will be practiced and taken into account for future use. Next, I hope our audience still have energy because we have prepared a quiz for our respective and loyal spectators for staying with us up until now. The quiz will be on Kahoot, and all of the audience can start preparing yourself to enter the game's code that will be shared on the screen later on. Furthermore, we will be finding 3 winners through the quiz, where the most exciting part is the winners will be getting RM10 ringgit each. For your information, the monetary prize will be credited through your Shopee Pay. So are you guys ready?
Okay, I need that everybody. All the best. Stay safe always. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Aidit.
So the game code, as you can see in the screen, is 3586321. I repeat, the game code is 3586321. You can see it on the screen. We will wait until more of you joining in for the game. Also, if any of you guys having connection problem, you can inform us so that we can wait for you. Feel free to join our game because we have provided 3 lucky winners RM10 ringgit each. going to wait for 1 more minute because we don't have much time here. Is there any more audience joining in? Yes, you can see one more joining in. So I think that's it. If there's no more people joining in, let us begin our quiz. distribution. To add on that, do you still remember the promised special prize for the one lucky active participant throughout our entire forum just now? So drum roll please. The fortunate active participant for this forum is... Oh, thank you. Is Nur Alfa binti Johan.
Woo!
Yay! You may also wait until the end of the event in order for us to collect your information for the shipping.
Yeah. So later
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm sorry to interrupt. So later the committee members will pass me the posting details. Then I will order the Bluetooth earphone to be posted lah.
yes, sure, we will contact you about that. Ladies and gentlemen, IPRMSA UNISA chapter welcomes any soul that would like to join our club and intended to expand more connection. For those who are interested in joining our club, there will be link in the chat room for you to fill in, and we welcome you to explore more things that will be valuable for our future use. To know more about our club, you can visit our official social media page, which is the IPRMSA UNISA on Instagram. With that, we have come to the end of our talk. Overall, we would like to wish and express our sincerest gratitude to our speaker of the day for that great information. We would like to thank the lecturers as well as everyone here for your participation and support throughout this entire forum. We wish to apologize for any recurring inconvenience during this 1-hour event. Thus marks the end of our talk. May this club spark the student spirit to continue striving the best for the better future, especially in the field of public relations. And may you spend the rest of your day in high spirit. As always, wear your mask and stay safe. But before we go, I would kindly ask everyone to remain in this online room for a brief photo session. May I ask all of our guests to please turn on your camera and strike your most confident pose. Please remain in your pose for 5 seconds for us to screen capture it.
Okay, everyone ready? All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Another one. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. And you may leave this online room. And for the 3 winners and special prize winners, don't leave just yet because your prize awaits you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Nazirul, for spending your time with us today.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Nazirul. Hope to
Welcome,
see you
Dr.
again.
Siti.
Bye, guys.
Congrats, Alpha.